This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast here. Thank you for joining me on this live edition here. This week, I got with me, debatably, the best support player in the game from the Imperial Guard, Narcyst. Thank you for being on the podcast, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you on here, man. You're just such an annoying support player, buddy. Do you hear that? You must hear that a lot, right? Because right under the comments when I said you were going to be on, they're like, "Hey, can you tell him to stop moving so I can kill him finally?"
I mean, I can't help it, man. I'm just trying to stay alive for my team, you know.
Man, yeah, you've been playing the game all year. I feel like too, pretty much since right from the beginning you started playing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was a lowly scrub when I first started this game, right? I mean, I had no flight sim experience besides, I don't know what, Star Fox 64. That's about it. Okay, so it's just like I think one day it's just like an ad came out. That was on YouTube. That was just like random, right? I'm like, okay, what is this Star Wars thing going on? It's like, this is an actual like flight sim, and it's a game. And just like the combination of the music and the cinematics, like just like, it gave me chills, right? And I was like, damn, that looks like a game I want to play. I haven't felt that way in a long time.
So when you saw it, then you play on a flight stick, from what I understand, though, too, right? So did you invest in equipment?
No, I was always a mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
Throughout the whole thing so far.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for me, I never played any mouse and keyboard games really. Like, I'm a console plebe here, so that's where I came at it. I just jumped right onto the controller. So you're playing mouse and keyboard. So perhaps maybe we can start off talking about this a little bit early, because I feel like I'm going to ask you about the multi-drift actually now. When did you find out of the multi-drift? When did you start using it?
What was it? It was like the spring minor.
Okay, so you weren't using it any earlier than anyone else or anything like that.
No. I misspoke. What have we had so far? We've had
winter minor, winter major, spring minor, spring major.
I want to say winter minor, winter major, actually.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that was like just kind of before it dropped too, you started using it. And I mean, you'd been evasive the whole time. Actually, even before that, you were known kind of for being the tractor beam guy too. How did you start using the tractor beam?
So the tractor beam was more of like a project, right? Like, cause like I know, like I was actually somewhat a PvP player, like a little earlier before that, but like, like I just noticed it's like, man, I can't. Well, like even though I feel great in the Defender, like I don't know what to do on New Republic. Like I can't land these shots on when the Defender first came out. And so I was just like tinkering around. I mean, I was also like the flex support player at the time, so like I was just like looking. I mean, I was just like,
the game itself too. At that point, a little bit earlier, teams were still a lot of teams had supports full game, but some teams would do a mix too, where they'd have a support after the opening, kind of switch out and do flex. Is that kind of what you were doing at that point?
If I was on Empire, yeah, like okay. it was a clear, easy answer. Like like you get the flip. And then you go on a Defender because they're nigh unkillable back then.
Yeah.
Before the drift bugs and everything like that, the drift bug got patched out.
And then, you started noticing the tractor beam.
Yeah. So I was just thinking it was just like a New Republic ship thing first, right? Because like I'm only using the tractor beam because it's really hard to start Defender.
Yeah.
And it was just like. I had my suspicion, like my doubts of like, people saying like, oh, well, it's bad, it bugs all the time. It's just like, you know what? I never even really tried it myself. And so like I started working with it and I'm just like, okay, so there's certain locks and certain locks that break and certain locks that don't. And it's just like, okay, well maybe you can make this a consistent weapon then. And then
what do you mean that certain locks that break and certain that don't? What do you mean by that exactly?
So like if they're gonna like about cross your screen, and you lose sight of them, then the lock's gonna break
Mm-hmm.
before because like, it doesn't work like an ion missile, like where
Right.
sometimes the ion missile will oblique and then like get him anyways, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see.
So
Yeah,
like
it's less predictable almost, or more,
yeah,
or more. You could because you see where it's
that was
not
it,
going to
it
be
was
consistent. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like I would say straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You just look at them or you aim ahead of them and you predict where they're going to move depending on the orientation of the ship, right?
Yeah, and
So
I feel like you're one of the first people to really see the power of the tractor beam kind of early as well.
yeah, no, like I just remember I was just getting used to it, and I was like, I had it in my back pocket for a tournament, but I didn't want to play it because I was like, you know what, I'm not that good with it yet. But I did pull it out like on one team, right? And I was just like, you know what, I'll pull it out for this one team, see what happens. I did decently with it, and I was like, okay, no, it's not yet. It's not ready yet. So it had to be. It was the thing that had to ripen over time. And then just when it was ready, like yeah, the tractor beams just came easy.
hmm when did you make the move to support? You said you started kind of just hitting the lobbies, playing like normally. Did you just at what point did you switch to support full time? Then why don't you tell us about that?
So I think it was like when our dogfight team decided like, hey, let's try to do competitive in fleet battles, right? And so we tried that, and we're like, wow, we're horrible. Yeah, it's just like it was a completely different experience. I'm like, yeah, we were on dogfight for so long that we've never even touched fleet battles because of how it was back then. Yeah, so we were mostly just PvPers, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
like, and I was a PvP U-wing support for the team. Um, but I was also like flex, like fighter,
hmm
plasma fighter, burst fighter. But yeah, fleet battles is like, yeah, that's when I kind of started to wean myself off of the PvP. I was like, you know what? I don't know, like I could keep people alive, and I have more of an impact on support than I do on my fighter.
Yeah, so I
So
guess when Imperial Guard started basically needed the support player and they started doing fleet battles, that's kind of when you stepped into the role. And it sounds like kind of slowly on the Empire side, as you got better at support, you kind of moved away from the flex and just were full time support on both sides.
yeah, eventually, like after what, like pretty much Defender was like the last bit of like flying mostly any other ship, right? And then after that, it was just pure support.
hmm
Yeah, it was like pure support.
I'm trying to remember too, because I mean, they hit the boost gasping was so strong there too for a while. That's kind of when we saw I feel like the multi draft like Fenkar video kind of hit right in the midst of all that too. So I feel like the orbiting the cap ships was like just I mean it still is now, but you just saw it be when the boost gasping hadn't been nerfed yet. That was like it was just so necessary, and teams would stay in so long. It's just funny how the game's kind of changed. It's still the same thing. We don't have the tools to do that. We're still playing it the same way though now. I think people have just gotten much better at the flight mechanics overall. Have you found it harder to tractor beam people now in the game, or is it more difficult now than it was then? How have you seen that come along?
I think what happens is like there are some players that I do have a hard time getting, and like at first I didn't realize what was happening. Right, it was just like, wow, well, like all of a sudden these defender pilots they're like harder to lock on. Then I find out they're running triple dampening, right? You can
Mm.
get 100% dampening from hull, 200% from scrambler shield, and it's just like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to make this nice and slow then, huh? It's like we gotta strip the shields off now. It's like, okay, that's the first objective now.
So,
But
so it's like strip the shield, then get the tractor beam on them. So yeah, it makes sense. Hold them there to be finished off.
yeah, exactly. And at that point, I mean, like a support pilot, a primary ion cannon support pilot with tractor beam and ion could kill a defender on their own.
hmm
Yeah, like the additional PvP wouldn't even be needed, just because the ion damage itself is just enough.
I'm gonna say can do it, but it's still not easy for a lot. Like for on a really good defender pilot, it's still very difficult to do. I think with a draft, in my opinion, maybe you think otherwise. I find it pretty challenging still against a good defender pilot.
Yeah, like for me, like when it comes to like a good player, like like I could tell like who's piloting a little
Mhm.
better than most people, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, how hard are you making it for me to tractor beam you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so now we've kind of seen it come together. And the other thing too, I should say actually about your comms too when you play with them. If anyone who hasn't played with Narcyst should know, you're so loud and so vocal though. Like it's the first time you play, it's surprising, but it's also like the most helpful way to play because you know everything that's going on in the game, not just what you're doing, what everything the opposing team is doing. It's so how did that start? Have you always been that vocal?
Miner made a joke about this one time. He was watching me play another game with some IN people, like Apex, right? And
Yeah,
I'm like doing the same call outs, right? It's just like that's just me, man.
yeah.
I did play a little bit. I did play a little bit of a Halo competitive back in
Hmm.
the day, and
Hmm.
I was the same way as well. It's always been that way, dude.
Yeah, I mean it's so helpful though. Just like I said, like honestly, you know everything. You know where the players are. I mean, I feel like it honestly gives. And I think the other thing that Miner said to me that is the hugest thing. It keeps everyone on your team really engaged, right? Like it's hard for people to get sort of sidetracked on what's going on if they're the whole time they're hearing what you're saying. Like your instructions. I think also the support player has the best view of the field, so it just kind of makes sense. Honestly, like I definitely, when I was playing support, took a lot of those little lessons in. Also from, uh, oh my god, why am I spacing right now? Lumen as well, giving me a lot of tips too. So, where do you think support is at right now in the game? Where do you think it doesn't need any help? I mean, that's pretty much it for it. Do you think there's anything missing on the support that they haven't fixed?
Uh, Let me think here. I mean, like component wise, like and everything like that, like the ship's like numbers and everything like that. I mean, I don't think there's anything really wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing it doesn't have is jet engine, but doesn't really matter. Slam works really well on it.
And the
So
sorry, go ahead, go
yeah,
ahead.
I just yeah, it's just like an all around like good ship.
Mm-hmm. And oh shoot, I just lost my center. I feel like I made a mistake too because I wasn't zero throttling. I'm assuming you're zero throttling most of the time.
And no,
No, you're not. Do you stay just below basically?
no,
No.
like the only time I change my throttle
Hmm.
is if I'm ever trying to like line up a shot to make sure I get the ion on somebody or track to be on somebody.
Oh, are you in the sweet spot most of the time then with your throttle?
No, mostly maxed.
Oh, interesting. Wow, that's like
Yeah,
the absolute reverse of what most people say. I have
yeah,
I mean, I have it set up so I basically 0 or 100. Those are my like two options with my throttle because I feel like on Empire I'm always at 0. On New Republic, if I'm not 0, then I want to be full speed charging my engine so I can boost and be 0 again. Basically, oh, the other thing I was going to say about components as well, like we kind of talked about a bigger thing with the multi drift than you know being evasive. Like people talk about the multi drift as this kind of like a game changer for people who have it. But I think it's kind of the thing that when people do have it, them that I've talked to, they're like, it's not such a big deal. And from our testing, scrambler shields seem to make a bigger difference on lock-on times than multi-drifting seem to. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I think for like the longest time, people just didn't figure out about Scrambler Shield because they just didn't use it back in the day. You know, it was
Mm-hmm.
more of like a fortified shield build or something like that for most ships, or something similar to that. Resonant was barely used. But then all of a sudden, the missile meta came out, right? And so people were looking at it as like, dang, that's kind of rough to deal with, isn't it? It's like maybe we should start putting some dampening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably when it started happening. No, wait. Can you repeat the question one more time?
I was cool. The scrambler shield, basically, I noticed that made a bigger deal being evasive than multi-drift. Getting lock-on, which wise.
Okay,
Anyway.
okay. So yeah, I do have something to say about that. Okay, so uh, also the fact that people started getting more evasive contributed to the scrambler shield's rise. Actually,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, because
because you don't have to rely on the tankier builds and stuff too. You can be relying maybe on being more evasive.
exactly, and a lot of people have gotten evasive. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. I think we kind of talked about this a bit on other episodes too. Like, basically, everyone is just at Distracier November levels now. Basically, everyone is such a good pilot. It's pretty crazy. And I mean, we kind of see this balance patch today. Oh man, yeah. Someone mentioned the shield skipping. Actually, I should ask you about how often are you shield skipping? How important do you think that is for a support player?
Like, when it comes to shield skipping, you can't really do it too well on a scrambler shield. I mean, you might benefit more from like a fortify, but like, I honestly don't shield skip.
Yeah, I find lately,
But
I work.
but I will to say for the people that are, they are much more survivable. There's supports that I have hard times just ioning just because the shields are just regenerating so bad. I'm like, okay, I need to get the lock on track team.
It's almost like a shield repair kit. Like shield skipping
Yeah,
just basically is you're like whoop, 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 all right, back. And I can't do it on controller, so it's from a controller console, so it's a little frustrating. I guess I could actually. The problem. Okay, so for controller console people, they could. It's just if you switch to advanced power management, then it's just so much harder to do engines and everything else, basically. So that's the problem with it. You can't power manage on basic on controller, so you're kind of stuck on advanced for your power management. Just for shield skipping doesn't really make sense. Now I do wonder if maybe I think it's like makes a bigger deal than it actually does. Same with multi drifting. Is like you think that it's a big thing until you have it, then you see it doesn't make that much difference. But it would be nice to get some quick shield regen. That's for sure.
yeah. Like, say you do get a lock on a scrambler shield dude that's being evasive. You know, the people ion dunk now, right? The people have evolved to ion dunk or adapted at least. I mean, I should say.
I feel like honestly, the Ion Dunk has always been there. Like we made a video on it, like me, Reaver, and Swift. I think in like January. Like it's not new. It's just become more popular now. People are just like, because it's so hard to hit anyone. You kind of have to work in twos. You dunk them, then you can get. Yeah, I think. But yeah, it's definitely risen now. It's one of the main ways that people get kills. I think your flex players are basically just looking to do it all game.
Yep.
So what do you call it? Dunk? Some people call gank. I definitely prefer dunk.
I mean, I've only known dunks, so
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
guess that's it.
Yeah, Duckling, he says in the chat. He's been doing, honestly, he was our guy. He was doing it, like, honestly, he would do that in, like, I want to say, like, November. He was, like, way into doing the ion dunks all the time. So, Balance Patch came out today. What were your thoughts before it came out? What did you think they were going to do?
I was if they wanted to really like give the change the game may have needed, I don't know, maybe like a buff to primary weapons, like then PvP during fleet battles would be
Mm-hmm.
somewhat viable.
Yeah. I think to really change PvP, they needed to, like, give a morale bar overhaul, but I don't know. Just starting to, like, talk about that with someone, you really have to think it out, right? Like how you want. So you have to think it out almost like how many kills do you want to flip? How hard do you want it to be to get a kill? How much time? You know what I mean? Like it just so much goes into that it's so hard to switch it. And I don't know if they put, no offense to Motive, but I don't know if they put in the thought because it's impossible. Like they didn't predict something like someone being an AI farmer getting 60 AI a game or whatever it is, right? Like that. I just don't think they considered that.
Yeah,
Now,
I think that's
that
unfortunate.
being said, I would have loved to see the New Republic get like a buff to their laser DPS, right?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. I think that could have helped a lot of. I mean, I was worried about I don't want the A wing to be overpowered. My least favorite part of the game was when you saw 4 or 5 A wings against you. I hated that, double rockets and all that annoying stuff. But a lot of people really like that PvP part of the game, so you kind of can't discount that either.
No.
I would have kind of liked. I mean, I think that was the biggest. Uh, I think that was the hardest thing for people to take because they saw now that this is the game and it is, and it's basically just going to be getting further and further away from PvP as it continues. Just because people will continue to get better and better at being evasive. That's the reality of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like certain techniques that you can still kind of do, like certain maneuvers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'll help you get track to beam lock. But it's just like and like, but I have to stay sharp, and that would mean I'd have to play this game like more than I am right now,
Ugh,
and I
that's
just don't have that time though. I do not have that time.
see, I don't know. I might be wrong. I think it might not be that way though. I think we're pretty much all gonna kind of settle in. Yeah, Drift broke the game. Duckling thinks. I don't know. Oh yeah, you're doing well. I think I think people. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm getting way all over the place in my thoughts here. I feel like the amount of time needed to play might not change that much for you if the game doesn't change anymore, right? Like this is kind of the game. People will. I feel like there's almost like a level, right? Like once you're dying zero amount of times, like how can you go further than that? I guess it's a race to PVE.
It's the way I see it,
Hmm.
it's like, or the way I've developed as myself as a player is like there's certain plateaus that I envision, right?
Hmm.
It's like, what should I do next to like be a better player, right?
Mm.
And I'm always constantly doing that. And so like, and I always feel, it seems like I always have like a clear idea of where I should do next, what I should do next. And so I don't think, I don't think the player skill cap has been reached yet.
You know what? You're right. It hasn't been reached yet. Definitely not. And like, there's definitely room for everyone to get better for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about actually what the changes are here. So they reduced the X-wing boost activation cost by 12.5, reduced the Y-wing boost activation cost by 18.75. It's basically just pulling back what they did on a global hit, basically to almost all ships, I think, except a few of them. They basically pulled back some of that now for the X-wing, which I think this is probably. I mean, we could ask this first. I feel like the game is pretty balanced right now. How balanced did you think it is around this patch? Right now, after this patch, how balanced do you think it is?
You know, it's interesting, right? Because like I feel like as IG, or 16 BIG now, um, we get most of our wins through New Republic.
Personally, I mean, I don't feel like I have a better chance with New Republic than I do with Empire. I feel like I have a great chance with both of them. Uh, it's yeah. I feel like it's more. I feel like you have more different strategies you can use with New Republic, but Empire, I just feel like it's just like I'm just not gonna die. It's just how quickly am I gonna do this, right? Like that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
that. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, yeah, you go first.
I think the game is balanced right now. I'm trying to figure out what gives. I don't know what gives teams the edge. I think it's strategy and just execution. It used to be that Empire just had so much more rooms to make mistakes. Where Empire you had to play like such a flawless game. I feel like you have more room with New Republic now. I may have just mixed that up. New Republic had less room for error before, where Empire could just the damage output was so high they could just kind of like just make their way through and pull out a win. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I feel like it's more balanced.
I think with the strategies that developed over time, it's put New Republic in a better spot now. That's for
Mm,
sure.
mm-hmm.
This boost activation change is it's gonna help it even more, right? I mean, I'm sure there's certain boost casters that
Uh-huh.
are smiling right now at that change. They're like, "Oh my goodness, what did you do?"
I mean, personally, I have felt like um, my boost gasping is like a half bar away from being like almost perpetual. So I do feel I'm like, yeah, give me that 12.5%. That's gonna help for sure. The Y wing, honestly, that was really good for the Y wing too. Now with that, because they got the bigger right, why reduced Y wing cost by 18. So yeah, you're getting more boost to the Y wing. The Y wing's already in a great place, so I feel like that may actually help out the New Republic more than anything. Even may possibly more than the X-wing being more maneuverable
Yeah, no,
or more boosty
definitely.
anyway, and maybe not more maneuverable, more boosty though, more pinbally.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you're multi-drifting with that, oh man, dude, it's
Yeah,
not
get out of
you're
town.
not gonna have a good time. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe you should talk about the sponsorship too that IG's got. How did that start? How's that looking? Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
oh yeah, thank you, man. So pretty much what happened, right, is like the 16-bit put out, hey, we're looking for a team to sponsor, and the miner just reached out to them really quick, and was messaging them. It was a bit of a, it was like a, I want to say like a month long process until they finally made the announcement, like recently. And so, yeah, I mean, we just, told them the results. Like, hey, we consistently place fourth in tournaments and stuff like that. And they were like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Really cool. That's awesome. I get the big tournament here too. I mean, that's pretty awesome. You guys are sponsored going in. How are you guys feeling about it?
Oh, I'm actually pretty excited. So like, just like joking about it from earlier, right? Getting our own Wikipedia page if you get third or fourth, that's
Do you think we're gonna see a lot of new strategies out there? I mean, one thing I've noticed, like Fenkar hasn't put out a video in like a month. I'm like, is Splinter gonna do something crazy here? Or what's gonna happen?
I mean, he was the educational guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has dispensed so much wisdom to our community, right? I mean, it's just like, what else can he say? I
Yeah,
mean,
we
like
can.
anything beyond this point is just like, it's like you need to have like a pro coach over your shoulder telling you what to do. It's like, okay, yeah, you could do this better, you could do that better, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds like that's kind of how you approach it yourself, though. You are your own pro coach a little bit if you're like, working on all these things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could pretty much say that. Yeah.
I mean, myself, I'm honestly like, just because I haven't had a job, I just lost my job the last 2 weeks. I have been playing a ton of Squadrons, and honestly, I feel like I was playing it kind of wrong for a few months. Not wrong, but I wasn't using my time properly because I just spent time just like focusing on improving my gasping, getting way better at my shunt charging, and I don't mean to like offend people or whatever, but I mean, I think if you are kind of complaining about a lot of those things about boost gasping and shunt charging, you kind of aren't spending the time to learn it to a certain degree.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what it is, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't use it, you don't get results. It's
Mm-hmm.
rough. That's pretty rough, honestly. But
Yeah, I mean, I am kind of like of that position. Like, if they had like, let's say, last week I did something about wanting to like change it, but overall, my conclusion is like, if you change the game, if you like or get rid of all the boost gasping, all the shunt charging, all these things, all the what we kind of know the game to be, like that's a different game now. That's not a game I'm into. Maybe I would like it. I don't know, but I feel like more problems would come from that. Like the Fenkars are just gonna break it way harder if that happens.
yeah, well, even then, right? Like I think when like the game like first came out, like IN knew a couple things about certain like, well, about the engine parking too, right? We knew about it. And then we're like,
Oh yeah.
we
Oh
just
my
reported we
God.
just
Hold on.
reported it. We
We
just
gotta.
reported it straight to the fuck to the developers, right? We're like,
Yeah.
what is this, dude? How can we do this? And they
So
were just like, why? Why?
and if anyone doesn't know, engine parking was like earlier in the game in like November, December. There was like an exploitive, quote unquote, exploitive technique where people would just get in the engine and just do tons of. Could they do like all the damage? I can't remember how high the damage output was when you were in there, but you basically couldn't be killed once you did get in there. They just sit there.
Yeah, like you could straight up like I think what was it? You can almost you could kill the ISD
Oh, that's hilarious.
at one
Yeah.
point.
Apparently,
I think.
Chesser in the chat, Cyphus is saying that Chesser brought it up on the first week of the game, apparently too. So it's like it was known. It,
Yeah, it was dirty.
I think that's. I mean, we can kind of talk about this too. My thoughts of the overall game too. When they released it, the idea was that they were going to release a game and not do anything to it once they put it out. But I think that comes on the expectation that the game is like 100% finished and complete, and this game has just never been finished or complete, and it never will be finished or complete, I guess now. But that's okay. It's just a little bit frustrating because of those little things there that you kind of expected them maybe to get the game to a closer point of finished if they were going to leave it. Maybe I'm wrong though. Did you have more expectations?
Well, more balancing, that would have been a cool thing, right? Or if
Yeah.
you want to keep the game spicy, put some creative ideas in there, right? Right now it's just us and them killing each other's cap ships, right?
Yeah, and probably.
Supposedly this is a MOBA, right? Like, don't MOBAs have like these buffs that you can get somehow? I mean, just saying, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was talking about that with someone. Like, let's say you had to kill 30 AI before you got Goliath, and then you could unlock Goliath missiles or something like that. Yeah, I guess that could be a possibility for the game. What I see it as personally is like a free game. I think it should be actually the complete reverse. Rather than being a $40 game with no microtransactions, it should be a free game that's entirely built with with microtransactions. Like it should be like a Warzone to Battlefront. Yeah, it should be Squadrons should be the Warzone to Battlefront, like a side game that's free that if people that is supported by little microtransactions and cosmetic stuff, all cosmetics, but you know what I mean, just like slow unlock systems like a Battle Pass in Warzone or Fortnite or something like that.
yeah, that would have been nice for the game. Like you mostly see more support for those kind of games, anyways. That would have been.
I mean,
This would have been.
yeah, it's a game. A model like that, I feel like would have paid. First of all, there's a huge player base in Battlefront that you could kind of like at least have them kind of the same way coming in and out that they are to Squadrons, rather than it being a source of revenue by selling the game or an advertising for Game Pass or EA Access. Like just have it be a free game and then monetize it in game. Like I don't know. They just put out these new. See, that's the other thing. The May the 4th cosmetics were quite underwhelming. I think for most people that it was just a few things there, and so they added this one ship design. If they had more color variations to that design, right? Like, but you had to unlock them 5 times. That would just lead to people playing more to get more glory, so that they could do the unlocks that they want because there's more variations. That kind of stuff, I feel like, could have driven people playing the game more.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I don't know, just like the cosmetics. I mean, these last two, I was just like, well, aren't these just recolors?
Yeah.
Just, I was like, okay.
Kind of ugly recolors. Yeah, and that would be fine, except they make it seem like the final content drop. Here it is. It's just that. And I think the biggest thing, too, with these, when it comes to the starfighters and components, the balance patches, I think everyone thought the TIE Bomber was the ship that needed to be nerfed, if anything. I mean, those were the two. The A-Wing getting a buff, the TIE Bomber getting a nerf. Neither of those things happened.
No, I don't know what happened in the offices, but clearly it's not. They might be a bit tone deaf to what the community wants.
Yeah. I think they... I don't know. I feel like they've kind of washed their hands of the game a little bit, which is understandable. I guess that's the model of the game, but it is a little frustrating because they maybe could have left it in a better place. I think they didn't want to. I think they had a fear about breaking it too badly, though, or something like that. Because that is, there was that point where the Empire was just so overpowered, where they overdid the boost gas fix and hitting everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think they are a little worried about going too far. So, Narcyst, man, thank you so much for being on this episode and talking all this stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to leave off with about IG or support that you haven't been able to say?
Just don't fly straight. I'm gonna get you. Don't fly straight, dude. Just don't fly straight.
Seriously, look out for Narcyst out there. Do you stream? Do you have any social media stuff you wanna promote at all?
I do. So for my Twitch TV, I mean that's just Narcyst. Just the way it's spelled, Narcyst. Mostly, I've been streaming Resident Evil right now. I'm probably gonna stream the new game when it comes out,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah. But I don't have like a steady schedule. I'll mostly make announcements about that.
Nice.
And
Okay. I'll put your
yeah,
Twitch in the description there below. That's awesome, man. Check that out. And check out your Squadrons play for sure too. Any support players out there can definitely learn a thing or two.
oh yeah, no. Like if a support player has any questions, you can ask me
Oh.
honestly,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell you like the different types of supports that you can be.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. Support player support group with Narcyst anytime. Hit him up. He will help you guys out for sure. Thank you so much, Narcyst, for being on the podcast, buddy. And thanks everyone for listening. I will check you out next time on the Star Wars Squadrons podcast.
Thank you.